and welcome back. Today I'm going to show off my Minecraft Palais Garnier build. It's one that I've been working on for the past year. It's another one of those buildings that has a lot of my own design incorporated into it. It's not a 100% perfect representation, but I did try to make certain aspects of it look as close to reality as possible. Now, the Palais Garnier, also known as the Opera Garnier, is an opera house in Paris, France. It was built between 1861 and 1875 at the height of the Second Empire style. It was first commissioned by Napoleon III, who was at the time Emperor of France. He actually never got to see it finished, though, or as emperor, because the empire ended in 1871. So, even though there is a box that's specifically for the emperor, it was never occupied by a French emperor. And later on you'll see the emperor's box. But it is a very large opera house. It has 1,979 seats. I have close to that here in my model. And it is one of the most famous landmarks of Paris, along with, of course, Notre Dame, the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, the Cathedral de Sacré-Cœur, and it's one that really exemplifies the Second Empire style, or the Napoleon III style, which incorporates several different architectural elements like Palladianism, Baroque architecture, neoclassicism. It is a little bit of a hodgepodge, but in the case of this opera house, the architect, who was Charles Garnier, actually did a good job blending them together to make a very beautiful, very iconic building. Now here, after going around in the foyer of the opera house, we're going down through the orchestra seats, and here we are in the amphitheater. Now, the chairs are custom models that I made for my vanilla texture pack. They're actually candles that have been retextured, so you can walk right through the chairs, but I like that because it makes it a little less cluttered when you're trying to navigate through an area. I made a few changes as far as the actual seating arrangements go. That was partially because I was trying to do a curved real-life area in Minecraft. I did go through a few different iterations for the seating arrangements, but ultimately I think it turned out pretty well, especially when we take a look at some of the upper boxes like this. And I did try to make most of the seats, most of the boxes, have something of a view of the stage. Now, even in real life, there are certain seats and boxes where you can't see the stage from them. But I tried the best I could, especially doing this within Minecraft. And I like the way that it turned out. It feels like you could have people sitting in all of the boxes and all of the orchestra seats, really filling up the space. Now here we're going to take a look backstage. I didn't make it quite as large as it is in real life, mostly because I don't really have a reason to in Minecraft. I did put one curtain in, which with command blocks can be raised and lowered, giving you a good view of the auditorium from the stage. And I do have one backdrop that also with command blocks can be raised and lowered. And there is space to have a few other backdrops in as well. I wasn't quite sure exactly with the limited pixel art what kind of opera backdrop scenes I wanted to include. But then behind the stage we have here, this is a room where actors, dancers can meet with admirers. People want to give them flowers. One of my horses snuck its way in. And then back here we have some of the more kind of office areas. We have a back staircase. We have some dressing rooms, just very basic, sparsely furnished. I always like to have interiors for my buildings, but sometimes with the kind of background areas, I don't go too crazy with them. One of the custom paintings, I have Napoleon the First. And this is also a part of the opera house that I made a little bit larger. This is the Emperor's Staircase. I couldn't find any good reference pictures of the real one, and a lot of that part of the building is now occupied by the opera library. But this is how I would like to imagine the entrance and back sitting room of the Emperor's box would look like. We also have a very large salon here. This also is a little bit larger than it should be compared to the one in real life. When I was laying out the footprint for the building, I wasn't too particular about the measurements, and by the time that I was putting up the walls, I just kind of went with what I had. I was mostly concerned with doing the stage and the amphitheater and making sure that I had enough space to actually fit all the boxes in. So I did make the overall building a little bit wider than it should be. I've actually played around with the idea of trying to narrow the building down a little bit, which would be a very large project, and ultimately I don't really want to do that. I already made a huge renovation of the grand staircase, which originally the columns were a little bit skinnier and a little bit further apart. These columns are actually made from wall elements, where I used a debug stick to turn off the center post. But we also have lots of attic space, workshops, storerooms. We have rehearsal areas. All of these sorts of things that are in a real opera house, because there are a lot of people that work on an opera, and it requires a lot of practice, it requires a lot of preparation, and so different parts of the building have to be used for that. We also have things like bathrooms. Oh, good lord. Well, we'll get out of there. Coat checks, everything else that you would expect to find. Now, to try to build these hallways, the horseshoe that goes around the boxes, I actually went on Google Maps, and when you take a look at the Palais Garnier, there are street view images of the inside of most of the building. A lot of them actually taken by a robot. Every once in a while the robot passes by a mirror and you can see it. It looks like a cheap B-movie, Phantom of the Opera, if it was a cyborg. But here we are, up on top of the dome. I covered the roof with copper, which is getting a nice patina over time. I built this several months ago, and it's been greening since then. I built it on a diamond-shaped plot, flanked by some office buildings, flanked by a palace that I'll show off later. The rear of the building is a bit stubbier than it should be based on the one in real life, but that, again, has most of the offices and dressing rooms and other things that there aren't too many reference pictures for, and I didn't want to go too crazy with. But overall, I'm happy with it. It's one of the major projects that I've worked on, and it's something I'm very proud of. And if you'd like to download the world and take a look at it, feel free to. I'll make sure to have a link in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye.